Alright, before I get into the video, I want to say a few things. Thank you viewer for taking the time to look at my video, it means a lot. Also make sure to subscribe if you are new here. EP tries to enter my apartment to measure the bedroom. So, this happened 3 years ago. I was renting a basement apartment that I loved, my landlords were great, and an uncle of my childhood friend, and I lived there for 3.5 years. Halfway through, they told me they wanted to sell the place, but probably not that soon, since the husband was working on a commercial ship 9 months at a time. I just asked them to tell me when they decide to sell. Anyway, 13 to 14 months pass and they decide to start the process. They introduce me to the realtors, everything gets sorted out. Up to this point, everything is going great, realtors give me 24h notice before they bring buyers, I can stay home during the showings or go about my business. I have no complaints about them or my landlords throughout the entire process. Then one day I just got back from work and didn't feel like going out again, realtors came with a family of 5 or 6. It was announced, I just forgot, so I decided to stay. Family consisted of mother, father, adult daughter, and 2 or 3 kids, can't remember. Father was a piece of work. Now, thing is, I lived in a touristed town on the Mediterranean coast. It was summer. People try to pull all sorts of cons here. I know you said someone lived here, but we hope to stay couple of days to get the feel of the apartment. Realtor, what? This place isn't for rent, Op already lives here. Well, I can't buy something just like that, but okay, obviously we can't stay the night. Me, sorry, no, you can't, I live here. He moves on. Measures things left and right. Wondering out loud if their large wardrobe will fit into the bedroom. How he wants to buy an apartment for his daughter cause she wants to go to college here. Eventually, they pack up and leave for the beach, I saw them later, beach was 2 minutes away from the apartment. The next day there were no scheduled showings, so I decided to do one thing everyone does when they live right next to the beach, take a nap after work. But, before my head even hit the pillow, I hear someone coming down the stairs. There were only 2 basement apartments and my neighbors went away for a week. I get up and go for the door to spy, but before I even made it halfway there, someone rattles the doorknob and then, 10 seconds later, start knocking. I was really confused and freaked out. I go to the door, and lo and behold, it's entitled father from yesterday. I do not open my door. Me, who is it? It's me, we were here yesterday. Me, what do you want? I want to measure the space in bedroom to see if my daughter's wardrobe will fit. Me, no. You're not getting in. But I can't buy the place if I don't know, it's for my daughter. Me, then call the realtor, they have all the measurements on file. I'm not letting you in. I'll buy this place and evict you. Me, good luck, I have 3 months left on the lease, you can't do shit about that. My landlords told me that if the place sells before my lease is up, contract will state I can't be evicted before my lease is up. I already had a place lined up. Starts cussing out and I hear him go away. I called landlords and realtors after that, they were all mortified and worried someone like that just came to my place, tried to let himself in and threatened to evict me. Did not buy the apartment after all because landlords refused to ever deal with him again. Realtors told him it was sold. To this day, I believe their plan was to find a place to crash at for a few days for a free vacation under the pretext of buying the place for their daughter. I still had to improvise webcams around the apartment to keep an eye on it while I was at work, for the remainder of my stay there. I spent entire summer not feeling safe in my home. The time an M tried to drown me in sauce, fairly literally. Cast, me, obviously. M, entitled mom. Ed, entitled dad. EB, entitled brat. Boss, my asshole boss. Bride, the bride. Groom, the groom. So campus catering rarely did weddings, and honestly the food we made was so bad and so poorly handled I'd think you'd want to avoid it. But the father of the groom was a big name on campus, so it was held on campus and we had to cater it. I'm managing the entrees, serving up terrible chicken in a thick, congealed sauce, and vegetarian pasta that's basically just a half-assed pasta primavera with cheap, nasty oil on it. Seriously, I love me some primavera, and I wouldn't touch this garbage with a 10-foot pole. We're winding down, the last of the food is out, in a few minutes, we will put the main course away and set out the dessert course. Suddenly, EB appears. He's about 10, so he absolutely knows better than to do this. He decides that it's going to be the funniest thing in the entire world to yank the tablecloth away. Seriously, he was giggling the whole time, so I knew something was up. When I caught him with the edge of the tablecloth, I moved fast. Me, kid, don't even think about it. It's going to end very badly. EB giggles more and starts pulling. So, I walk over, take the tablecloth out of his hand, and tell him to scram. I go back behind the table, smooth my apron, and continue my awful job. And that's when things went badly. Why did you chase my baby? He wasn't doing anything wrong. Me, ma'am, your child was about to pull the tablecloth down, and it's my job to stop him. If I don't, I could be fired. Yes, this happened to a colleague. We are paying for this wedding. Don't you know who I am? That's when I realized this was the mother of the bride. Me, ma'am, I understand, but there are lit. And that was when she jumped across the table, grabbed my head and tried to force my face into the tray of sauce for the chicken. A very hot tray, heated by a lit sterno underneath. I, of course, started hitting her and screaming. The father of the groom came running over. Ed comes running over. The bride and groom come running. My boss comes running. Ed suddenly decides to try helping his wife try to shove my face into the sauce. I start clawing at him, too, while the groom and his dad try to pry these people off me. The bride screams something like, "You promised. You promised." I'm not entirely sure here. It was chaos. My boss is standing off to one side like a potato. All the while, EB is sitting off to the side, laughing like this is the funniest thing he's ever seen. In the end, the table went over and caught on fire from the sternos. A fire extinguisher was employed, and the wedding was basically ruined. My boss pulled me aside while I prepared to file a police report. Boss, you can't talk to the police. Me, actually I can. Boss, if you talk to the police, I'll fire you. Me, that's illegal. You can't do that. Boss, your choice. I filed the police report and told them what my boss said. He didn't fire me. And Ed pled guilty to misdemeanor assault. The bride handed me a huge slice of cake because she was pretty sure my boss would steal my tips. He did. TLDR tried to prevent a fire, one happened anyway when someone tried to drown me in congealed sauce. Got cake. My entitled mother uses her birthday as an excuse to bully my nephew. Not entirely sure if bully is the best word for it, but it's the best I could come up with. My mother has always been an entitled little sh*t but plays it off as passive-aggressive for the most part. She talks to everyone like a good Christian grandma and talks to her kids like a Karen from hell. I always just brushed it off when I was younger and soldiered through with the thought of, when I'm 18, I'm moving so far away from you. Now I'm 29 and living 1,000 miles away from her and life is sweet. The only thing that I regret about living this far away from her is that my 3 sisters and 2 nephews are all still down south with her. My oldest and youngest sister both live a few hours away from her, but the second youngest sister recently went through a divorce, and now she and her 2 boys live with my mom and stepdad. Because my sister works long hours at a small chain retail store, my parents are usually left babysitting my nephews. I have a few stories of my mom being entitled over the years, but this particular one happened just this past Thanksgiving. When I moved north, my mom asked that I make it home for Thanksgiving. It's my birthday that week too, and it would mean so much to me if you could come down to see me. Alright, yeah. That's somewhat doable. I didn't have much money after spending it all on the move, but I could scrape together enough to go visit for a few days. I drove down and spent 3 days with the family, with plans to drive back the day after my mom's birthday. The first day I was expecting my mom to be the one giddy and showering me in affection for coming to visit, but instead, it was my nephews. They're 6 and 3 and were over the moon happy to have someone other than grandparents to play with. My mom didn't even come to say hi to me, just waved over her shoulder at me as she walked into my stepdad's office and closed the door. My stepdad was already in there, and I could tell they were waiting for me to arrive so I could babysit and they could have some quiet time. I get that. I am 100% okay with spending time with nephews because they are my sweet boys and I love them. But what the F? I'm here to visit you too and you don't even bother greeting me or looking at me. That whole day was with my nephews and my youngest sister. She drove down after me. We spent the whole day playing and watching movies and had a great time. I barely saw my mom the entire time. It wasn't until the boys were going to bed that my mom finally did come out to talk to me. But by this point, she was 3 or 4 drinks in and wearing her nightgown ready to go to bed. She mumbled something along the lines of being happy to have me home, missed me so much, etc. etc. But by morning she had no recollection of it and just made excuses for not speaking to me the whole day, as she was just so tired from dealing with work, and the boys, and church all the time. I needed a break. Whatever. Day 2 she did talk to me. She barked at me to take my nephews outside while she shampooed the rugs and carpets of every room in the house. The fuck. So I complied and my nephews and I played outside for a long time. It wasn't hot but the sun was out and bright. We were out there for a few hours running around and goofing off. Eventually, the boys got hungry and I was exhausted from chasing them around. So I opened the door to see if it was okay to come back in, and my mom immediately started barking at us to stay outside until the floors were clean. Okay, well the boys are hungry and I'm tired, so if we can't come in then at least let me get my keys. I'll take the boys to get lunch in town. My mom immediately changed her tune. She didn't want us to leave the house without her on her birthday. It's her day, she wants to spend it with her babies, etc. So she said we could come in but to stay out of the boys' bedroom and playroom as those were fully carpeted and still wet. The boys, being 6 and 3, weren't listening and charged into the playroom to grab some toys to have a picnic with outside. My mom started fuming at me for it. The boys realized they got me in trouble and the 6-year-old apologized while the 3-year-old shrugged it off. I told them it was okay and we went and had our picnic on the front porch in the shade with their toys. Later that evening my mom starts announcing that we need to get dressed and ready go to, but hasn't told us where we're going. I asked her and she replied absolutely giddy, it's my birthday. We're going out to eat. I've been wanting to go to this Chinese buffet in town for ages. I personally didn't care. I had been dieting for months leading up to my visit and my mom's cooking, heavily saturated in grease and butter, had me feeling nauseous, so I wasn't planning on eating much of anything. I start to help the boys get ready and the 6-year-old starts whining that he wants pizza, not Chinese. My mom starts snapping at him that it's my birthday. Not yours. You want pizza? Eat it on your birthday. This has my nephew angry and not wanting to get dressed. Which his little brother now doesn't see the point in wearing shoes and a jacket if big brother isn't. I talk to the 6-year-old and tell him that there may be pizza there, most Chinese buffets down south have pizza for the kids, and start listing all the other yummy foods they have, and he agrees to get ready but isn't happy about it. I get them dressed, We all load into the car, and as we're driving there, the nephew starts asking me about the pizza again. My mom again snaps at him, this time telling him to stop fussing or whining. You're ruining my birthday. If you want pizza, then we'll eat it on your birthday. But today is my day and we're doing what I want. Nephew says his birthday is months away. He's taking my mom's argument to think that he can't eat pizza for months. This makes him start to sob. My mom then snaps at me that it's my fault for getting his hopes up and that she heard me lie to him about there being pizza at the restaurant. I then snap back at her that I said the word maybe and called her out for acting like a spoiled child and talking down to a 6-year-old when she's nearly 10 times his age and refuses to act like it on her day. My mom got huffy and finally stopped. My stepdad tried to throw in his 2 cents by saying we all need to calm down and that no one is right. That just got my mom mumbling to him about how her day is being ruined. I held my nephew's hand and whispered to both of them that if they didn't like the food at the restaurant, then we could stay up late and I'd make us a pizza to share when their mom came home from work. That got the older one to cheer up a little. But when we arrived at the restaurant, the older nephew didn't want to get out of the car. He was fighting tears, saying he was scared of my mom and that he didn't want to have her yell at him again. Knowing my mom would never let her Karen attitude slip in public, I told him that I would sit with him and his brother so he didn't have to sit by her. He agreed to come in after that. Each time the boys went to get food, I was the one to go with them. I was fine with this because again, I was too nauseous to eat. My mom noticed I didn't have a plate of my own and asked why I wasn't eating. I told her I wasn't feeling well and didn't want to eat to risk further upset. She didn't respond. I took the younger nephew to the restroom after that, and when we came back, the older nephew was coming back from the buffet with an empty plate. I asked him if he wanted more food and he just shook his head and fought back tears again. I asked if he was okay and he told me that while I took his brother to the restroom, my mom told him it was his fault that I wasn't eating. That he and his brother were being such little piggies that I was too disgusted to eat. So he was getting another plate so that he could get me some food and he wasn't going to eat any more of his. I was even more pissed with my mom at this point, told my nephew that I was okay and that I was going to talk to my mom about this. We went back to the table together and I told her to her face, just loud enough for a few others to hear, that it was her cooking that made me sick. That she coats everything in butter and cheese when I'm lactose intolerant and she knows that. That I've been dieting to lose weight because I'm morbidly obese, and that after months of clean and healthy eating, one day with her food has had me ready to vomit. But none of that is my nephew's faults and there is no excuse on the planet for shaming a 6-year-old for eating. She turned her nose up at me and said she didn't know what I was talking about. Then she pretended that others didn't hear what I said when it was obvious that they did. I promised my nephew to get a plate of things with him and would only eat it if he ate it with me. Me, him, and his brother all went to the dessert aisle and loaded that thing down with cakes and pudding. I snuck a few pieces of sushi to the side and ate those while the boys loaded up on the sweets. My mom decided to make herself feel better by taking me to her favorite store and show me around. We looked at a bunch of different things and the boys were starting to get sluggish and tired. They'd played all day without a nap and their sugar rush from the dessert bar was causing them to crash fast. I rushed our trip through so we could get them home, but my mom kept nagging that she wanted to stop at other stores while they were still open. This caused her to eventually complain that the boys were clinging to me too much. I reluctantly agreed to go to Walmart after this. The plan was for my stepdad to stay in the car while the boys slept, but my stepdad changed his mind and wanted to check out the gardening section. And since I had to shop with my mom, then the boys did too. The boys crawled into the cart and my mom and stepdad started to walk off with them. I went to the restroom and then when I left I couldn't find them and my phone had died so I couldn't call them. So I wound up waiting at the car for at least 30 minutes. When they came back, my parents seemed annoyed and the boys were quiet, still looking sleepy. I loaded them into the car and just a few minutes down the road the older one started making a noise. I was sitting driver side back seat, he was passenger side back seat, his little brother between us. It was dark so I couldn't quite see his face, but eventually, I heard him sniffle as we passed under a street lamp and I could see tears on his cheeks. I reached over to wipe one away and asked him what was wrong. He told me he was sad that I was leaving in the morning and that he didn't want me to go. He started begging for me to call my job and ask if I could stay for a few more days. This broke my heart. I couldn't even think of words to say. I felt tears in my eyes too. Before I could say or do anything, his little brother reached forward and wrapped his arms around mine and laid his head on me and softly said, "Please stay." Tears fell so hard at that point. I missed these boys so much and the time spent with them was the best I'd had in months. I didn't want to leave but knew that I couldn't stay. Before I was able to respond, my mom starts in again, this time saying, "Stop your crying. Don't waste what little time she has left being upset. You're ruining it for everyone." My nephew cringed and tried to pull his hands away from mine. I just gripped his hands tighter and bit my tongue. I was so ready to scream at my mother but didn't want to do that in front of the boys. Especially since all she'd done was tear them down and make them feel bad because of me. If I showed that I was angry and started to argue with my mom, then they'd think it was their fault too. I told my nephew that I want to stay but explained that I have friends and responsibilities that I have to get back to. But promised to come back and visit as soon as I can and to call more often so we can play and talk more. The older nephew leaned on his brother who continued to lean on me and we remained like that the whole ride home. They fell asleep on my arm and my arm fell asleep under them. But it was worth it. I didn't even speak to my mom for the remainder of my stay. She didn't seem bothered by it. I told my sister what all had happened while we were out to dinner and how disappointed I was that our mom had been acting like this to her precious grandbabies. My sister told me that our mom has actually done worse. That she doesn't have proof of it or she would have done something by now, but she believes our mom has been drinking when she's supposed to be watching the boys. They don't have bruises or marks from her, but my sister has seen a few red whelps that the boys won't tell her where they come from, but they look suspiciously like our stepdad's hand. I begged my sister to get the boys and get out, even offered to help them move up north with me. She said she didn't want to go that far north because she doesn't want to take the boys too far away from their father and his family, just because of our parents being sh*t. She did tell me that our older sister was making arrangements for them to move in with her in the coming months. The sooner the better. It is now the end of June 2020 and my younger sister and her boys are finally moving in with our older sister. It's been hard for me to get in contact with my younger sister because of our insane work schedules and COVID. But I've been keeping good to my word and chatting with my nephews often. They've gotten so spoiled with chatting with me on the phone that while I was typing this they've called me 5 times. So, thank you for reading this far. Have a great day. I have to go entertain kiddos now. Make sure to like, share, subscribe if you haven't done yet. Thanks for watching.